today's the day. We're about to start our trip on the Alaska or AlCan Highway, and we're gonna show you everything you need to know if you wanna make this trip yourself, or if you just wanna see how we do on it. We've planned for a 9-day trip, and we're gonna share our exact mileage, how much gas we go through, every stop we make to hike, eat, sightsee, and where we spend each night along the route. So stay with us for a day-by-day breakdown of this exciting drive to Alaska.
Let's go!
We're starting our Alaska Highway road trip in Dawson Creek, British Columbia. This is the starting point, or mile 0, of the Alaska or AlCan Highway, which is a 1,387-mile stretch from right here in Dawson Creek to Delta Junction, Alaska.
We've been in Dawson Creek for almost a week getting prepared, and that includes getting caught up on work because we won't have cell phone or internet service for the vast majority of this trip.
Yeah, within the US, we get amazing coverage from our T-Mobile home internet. It's home, but it actually comes along with us in the van and works amazingly better than even a MiFi situation does. So we never invested in Starlink because that's been the perfect solution for us so far.
Yeah, but now that we're in Canada and we have no internet service, we're kind of wishing we had that Starlink. Although that would kind of be a lot to spend for just a few weeks of internet.
We booked our campsite, which advertised Wi-Fi, so we thought we'd be covered. But it turns out it's the slowest Wi-Fi we've seen in decades. And devices only stay connected for a few minutes at a time, so it's basically useless.
But we found a great alternative. The local public library has been an excellent place for us to work all week with amazing Wi-Fi.
We've been staying at Mile 0 Campground, which is conveniently located right next to this pioneer village. This place is a great way to learn some of the history of British Columbia and specifically the Dawson Creek area.
Dinosaur footprint.
It's a great brewery with awesome food.
We had our first poutine here, so now we're back for our last meal too. So now that we've spent our last day taking care of errands, we just filled up our tank so we could start full in the morning and keep track of every bit that we use on the Alaska Highway Drive.
This is it! We're finally heading out this morning.
What are you most excited for?
Bears and cinnamon buns. You?
Laird Hot Springs is sounding pretty good right about now.
Oh, yeah. We are on the road! Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. We got our snacks, Timbits, of course, Tim Hortons, hello, Canada, coffee, and playlists and maps are downloaded, and we're running offline so that we, A, don't use up all of our data while we're driving and really don't need it, and B, because we don't know what our signals are going to be like soon. We're probably going to lose them. So ready to go. We are currently driving through a wildlife corridor for about 70 kilometers, so there were big signs telling us to watch out for deer, elk, and moose. I will be so excited if we see those. All right, we're looking at something up ahead on the right. It's a sign. That's a bummer, never mind. We have a long drive today. This first stretch is one of the less scenic stretches of the Alaska Highway, so we're planning on getting through it kind of quickly because we know there's at least one place along the way that we're going to probably want to stay for at least 2 nights so we can really enjoy it. So right now we are just cruising through. We've got about maybe 6 or 7 hours of driving ahead of us before we land for the night, but I think there are going to be a couple of cool stops along the way and things that we're going to want to see. We took a quick detour off of the main highway, and we're now on the old highway because parts of the original Alaska Highway were bypassed after the original construction. But this is taking us to a very cool landmark. We can't drive on it, but we're gonna get out and walk on it. It's the Kiskatna Curved Bridge. It is one of the only curved wooden bridges, and it's actually quite large and was quite the engineering feat. So this is gonna be cool to check out. Feels a little rickety, huh?
Sort of.
I think it'll hold us. We just made a quick pit stop at the visitor center in Taylor, which is about 30 miles up the highway. And now, everything has changed. We're gonna have to take a lunch break and completely re-examine our itinerary because, as you already know, one of the things I've been looking forward to the most on this trip is cinnamon buns, especially the cinnamon buns at Tetsa River Lodge, which are rumored to be the absolute best in the world. As we were at the visitor center here, we got talking with a woman. She made sure we knew all the stops we wanted to make along the highway, and she definitely confirmed that Tetsa River Lodge is the place to get cinnamon buns. She also let us know that they're closed on Mondays. And wouldn't you know, our itinerary has us going there tomorrow, which is Monday, because we always manage to go to the places when they're closed. So thankfully, we got the heads up. We are not gonna do that this time. But it does mean we have to break up today's long drive, maybe extend it into 2 days. That way we get to the Tetsa River Lodge on Tuesday for fresh cinnamon buns. We just had our first wildlife sighting, a black bear.
Nice.
Too fast to grab the camera and catch it. I mean, I just saw him poke his head up out of the grass and then run real quick into the woods as we were driving up along the freeway. But it was definitely a black bear. It was not very far off the road at all. First bear sighting, first wildlife sighting. I think it's gonna be one of many. So other than our bear sighting, the drive so far has been pretty uneventful. But I will tell you one thing that we're loving about it so far, and that is that there are so many opportunities to pull off of the highway. Whether you need a bio break, to empty some trash from your vehicle, maybe make a coffee or some lunch, there are pullouts every couple of miles at least. So you're definitely gonna have lots of opportunities to do that. This particular pull-off is pretty scenic because we're starting to see the mountains get close, and that means we're gonna have some gorgeous views coming up in tomorrow and the next day's drives, and I'm very excited for that. The other exciting thing about this stretch is it's right after the Sani River area, and for about 30 miles, we've been seeing, according to the milepost, that it is prime moose viewing area. Unfortunately, the time to see them is right about dusk. So we're a bit early for that. It's probably around 4 o'clock in the afternoon right now, but we are keeping our eyes peeled because it would be so exciting to add a moose sighting to our wildlife count for the day. All right, we just parked up for the night, and now it's time to give you the stats for the day.
We went from mile marker 0 to mile marker 217, but we actually drove about 224 miles thanks to that little detour we made to Kiskatna Bridge.
You almost didn't get it out, huh?
I know, but I got it.
We bought 0 gas so far. We had 1 bear sighting. Yeah. That was it for the wildlife so far, but we weren't expecting much today, and there's a lot more to come. So we're very excited for that being our start. Now we're settled for the night at Prophet Airstrip Dispersed Camping. It's a bit of a mouthful. It's just a short drive off the highway, maybe about 1 kilometer or so. Got some packed gravel roads, but nothing bad at all. We had no problem getting back here, and there are plenty of spots available. Day 2 of our AlCan Highway adventure. And yes, you see it right. We are in the same spot we were last night, and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, we have not gotten too far yet, but there's a good reason for that. As I mentioned yesterday, we had to kind of rearrange our plans a little bit all around a cinnamon bun. We shrunk our drive down a little bit yesterday, camped up in this beautiful spot, and since we stopped early, I started working a bit. Got working on our next vlog and got quite a ways through it. So I decided I wanted to sleep in a little bit this morning and then get up and finish it. Because when we get up to Fort Nelson, which is about an hour away, I can probably find some Wi-Fi and get that thing uploaded. So hey, kudos to me for being productive, right? But it means that now it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and we gotta get going. Let's head out. I totally forgot to count them for our wildlife count.
Oh. Okay.
There was like at least 3 on that side.
5 on this side.
Okay.
And then
There was at least 3.
Yeah, at least.
Okay, so I think we had 8 bison.
Maybe a couple more.
We're sitting in a Tim Hortons now, using the Wi-Fi. I'm gonna see what kind of work I can get done, but I gotta tell you, the drive so far has been more exciting than we thought it was gonna be. We'll show you that when we get to our tally at the end of the day. First, we're gonna get some work done, and then we're gonna head up to our camp up for the night. End of day 2.
Wow.
We were not expecting much, to be honest, because, sorry, there are tons of mosquitoes and bugs around here, so we're gonna try to get through this quickly. First off, can you guess what time it is right now? Put your guess in the comments. I'm really curious what people think just based on this light, this beautiful twilight evening light we have going on here. Pause it for a second, because I'm about to tell you. Okay, it is after 10 p.m.
That's crazy.
We are headed to the land of the midnight sun. We are going to see sunsets at like 1 a.m. I am so excited. Anyhow, back to today's drive. We were not expecting a whole lot because it's a really short drive, and we were just continuing what we were originally going to do yesterday, coming all the way up and just past Fort Nelson, which is kind of the less, I think, scenic part of this AlCan Highway, Alaska Highway road trip. However, I would say for less scenic, it was pretty good looking.
We're pretty impressed.
Yeah, and especially after you get past Fort Nelson, I think that's where pretty much everyone agrees. That's where things really start to open up. You start to see the mountains, sorry, in the distance. I feel like a hippie just grabbing it like nothing in the air. And the hills and the forests, and oh my gosh, it's really beautiful here now. But that's not what was really amazing about this drive. Let's start getting into some of the stats, shall we?
Yes.
So, I have to pull out my notes because we have some very specific numbers and things that we want to make sure we get right for you all. Today we drove from mile marker 217, that was the airstrip where we spent the night last night, to mile marker 318.7. So that's just over 100 miles, 101.7 miles from yesterday's point. We drove 104 miles total today because we had to drive around Fort Nelson a little bit to find some Wi-Fi. Had to get a vlog up, you know, priorities, that sort of thing. So anyway, we are at a total of 328 miles actually driven. We got down to half a tank of gas today, so we don't like to let it get too low on this stretch because, as you know, the towns are going to be fewer and farther between. So we stopped in Fort Nelson. We got 46.246 liters of gas. I'll put the conversions for gallons and also US dollars on the screen when we edit this. That cost us a total of $93.37 Canadian. So that is the total that we have spent on gas so far since starting this trip. As for the stops that we made along the way, they were a whopping Tim Hortons and McDonald's. Yeah. Those were both for Wi-Fi. Tim Hortons gave us great Wi-Fi for some research we needed to do and some final work we needed to do, but when it came time to upload, they were hopeless. Super slow. We moved on to McDonald's, got ourselves some French fries, and got that video uploaded. Now, for the really exciting part of this trip, as you know, yesterday we saw a black bear.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I'll tell you what, they kept coming today. We started out with, well, 2 large birds. They were some kind of marine bird, something that we haven't seen before.
Maybe a heron or something. I'm sorry, I'm getting attacked.
We're getting attacked by mosquitoes. Some kind of heron or something like that. 2 large marine type birds that or waterfowl that we're not familiar with. And then we saw another black bear. Yeah. First black bear of the day. And then a little while down further, we saw a black bear. And then a few miles down the road further, we saw a black bear. And then we got to Fort Nelson. And from there, we only had maybe half an hour, 45 minutes to drive to our point for the night. So again, no big expectations.
Right.
We saw not one, but two black bears grazing alongside of the road together. Went a little further down and we saw our first deer of the highway. A few miles further down, we saw, what does that say?
A black bear.
And then another mile later, black bear. That gave us a total of 7 black bears.
Just today.
Just today. I mean, it cannot get better than that, can it?
Well, it did, actually.
It did! Because, okay, we are honestly done with the bears, but little ways down the road further, we saw
About 8 bison.
including a little baby. It brought Wyoming right back, didn't it?
Oh, man.
So that was absolutely incredible. And by that point, we were just a few kilometers, I think, from where we were parking up for the night.
Very, very close.
Very, very close. So we were like, all right, that's a pretty epic night.
Winding down.
Yeah, and then...
A moose. Our first moose of this trip.
Yes! Okay, so that's 7 black bears, 2 large birds, a deer, 8 bison, and a freaking moose!
Oh my God.
On our shortest drive day of the trip. You guys, this is already so epic. I can't even wait. But starting tomorrow, we have a very early morning because we have cinnamon buns to go get, and we are very close to those. It is Tuesday morning. They are going to be open. I am so excited. And then we have some hikes we want to do as we go down the Alaska Highway. We've got some museums that we want to see. There's so much coming up now. This is where it really starts to get exciting. So we are going to hit the hay. We're spending the night here at Cleto Creek. We're right off the highway. I mean, like literally, it's right there behind you. Hopefully it'll be nice and quiet. I mean, as you know, there have been no cars this entire time we've been talking to you. So it's a pretty quiet highway. We're right by a creek. Hopefully we don't get any animals rocking the boat while we're sleeping, or the van, as it were. And we're going to bed. We'll see you in the morning. Day 3, and I realized I didn't show you our park up last night. So let me show you exactly where we were in proximity to the road. So now we're about to start our day. First thing on the agenda, cinnamon buns. I am so excited to try these. They had better live up to the hype. After that, we had planned a couple of hikes, but it's raining. And I don't know, maybe we'll brave it, maybe we won't. We're gonna get to the lodge for the cinnamon buns, and then while we're there, hopefully they have some Wi-Fi and we can jump online and see what the weather's gonna be like the rest of the day, and then decide if we're gonna have to change up our plans a little, add a day to the trip, and just kind of wait out the rain. I don't know, we'll see when we get there. But first things first. First big stop of the day. I'm so excited. I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm really looking forward to these cinnamon buns. Moment of truth. So what do you think?
It's fantastic.
This is quite the epic cinnamon bun. It is so gooey. Sweet, but not too sweet, which is amazing.
It's really pulley, huh? Hard to pull apart.
It's stretchy, which is nice, because that means it's not too dry.
Yeah.
So good. This definitely deserves a happy food day. All right, did it live up to expectations?
Absolutely lived up to it, 100%.
Those were so freaking delicious.
Yeah.
Everybody in here is so nice. Even the other guests, we just got so entertained by a group of New Zealanders. And now we gotta hit the road, huh?
Yep.
According to the app, it says it's not raining anymore. Using my eyeballs, I disagree.
It is raining still.
Yeah, so I think we might skip the first hike we had in mind. We're gonna drive on a little, see if this weather clears up a bit as we go, and try to catch the second hike that we have planned for today.
Which conveniently is the shorter hike.
Works out nicely for him. And then after that, we have hot springs.
Yes.
By the way, just had to add that those things are so huge, we had to share one. Definitely big enough for 2 people, maybe even 3 or 4, depending on how hungry you are, but they are massive, so plan accordingly. And they cost $8 each. That was an awesome black bear, which we saw going back southeast. We've had yet another change of plans because as we were buying our cinnamon buns, we realized, well, our cinnamon bun, just one, we realized that we were missing one of our credit cards. It was left in a gas pump back in Fort Nelson.
I was pumping the gas on this trip.
We are headed all the way back to Fort Nelson now to get that because we're gonna be on the road for so long and we need that method of payment as one of our international ones because it doesn't charge us a international transaction fee. So we've been using that one for the most part in Canada. So we're headed all the way back to Fort Nelson, which is about an hour and 20-minute drive from where we started at the Tetsa River Lodge, and then we'll be doubling back this way. So once again, reevaluating our plans and figuring out when we're doing what, but it might be a good way to pass the time while the weather clears up. So this could end up working in our favor. And we saw a bear.
We've already seen one bear.
2 more bears on the hill. As long as we're back here in Fort Nelson, we are taking advantage of the free Sani-dump, getting our RP tank nice and fresh and empty again, and topping off our fresh water. If you find yourself here, this is super convenient, and it's right by the visitor center, which is right there over my shoulder. So easy to find, easy to use. I think it might be open 24/7, but just double check that online. It's on Campendium and iOverlander. They also have a whole map of local Sani-dump services along the Alaska Highway within the Northern Rockies. So you can see where else you can stop to fill up or empty. All right, we got some kind of poop here. You know, when we were in the national parks last year, we kept seeing this book. Whose poop is this? It was a children's book. And I always thought it was hilarious, but honestly, I kind of wish I had it now. We just parked here to go on the Baba Canyon Trail. It's about 4 miles, a little bit less. And it's supposed to be pretty easy and have some good wildlife opportunities. And based on that rock sheep we saw on the way in here, I'm pretty stoked that we might see more. I don't know what kind of poop that was, but we're parked in somebody's bathroom here, and I hope they don't come back before we leave. That is disgusting. And that's really red, which feels kind of fresh. Really close to where we parked. Okay, so there's scat on one side, and there's like a freshly, whatever that is. I don't know if this is really safe. We are about to be Taurons, I think, and get ourselves into some serious trouble here. We're jingling our keys, by the way, because we don't have bear bells. So that's our little safety precaution there. Hopefully it works.
Last call lake, that's ominous.
All the signs point to don't do this trail. And we're gonna do it anyway. Let's go see what happens. By the way, Baba Canyon Trail is across the street from the parking area. You kind of park for a different trail and then make your way through over here. You can see it's clearly kind of trailed out, so people have clearly gone this way before. Here we go. You can see the signs here. So we parked in the Waukpash Trail and McDonald Creek, but it's also for Baba Canyon. And so I think that trail going down that way is either Waukpash or McDonald Creek Trail. And Baba Canyon, where we're going, is across the street over there. All right, let's go see what we see. That's a really pretty peak there. Just the stone with all the trees on top. I'm just gonna keep talking, A, because I'm nervous, but also B, because making noise helps to let bears know you're coming, and that way you don't sneak up and surprise them or anything. And hopefully they'll do us the same favor and not sneak up and surprise us. So there's the sign. This is the Baba Canyon Trail. Can you read it?
Please note that there is no 911 service in the NRRM.
That's the Northern Rockies.
The following Fort Nelson contact numbers are in effect.
Okay, tell us the number.
Well, there's 6 of them. Police, 250-774-2777.
Like, I'm gonna have time to look that up if we have an emergency. Okay, how long is it?
5.5 kilometers, round trip to first viewpoint. Allowed 3 hours return.
And then what does it say about difficulty? 3, moderate.
3, moderate. Fairly small elevation gain for the first part of the trail, but lots of creek hopping required. Short, quick elevation gain to either viewpoint.
Right. Let's see. Here's the trail. You can hear the river or creek or whatever it is flowing next to us. God, it's beautiful here. So we're getting to this hike a lot later than we expected we would. This was gonna be a pre-lunch hike, and instead it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But because of having to go back to Fort Nelson and then back this way again, it definitely took up a good chunk of our day. And between that and taking up some time yesterday so that we wouldn't get to the cinnamon buns until today, we have officially added a full day to our trip. Our 9-day plan is now a 10-day plan. Thank goodness we have the flexibility to do that though. Whoa, that is some clear water.
Crystal clear.
Wow. All right, we've made our way up a little bit. Things are opening up. I'm seeing a canyon now. It is still really rocky though, and given as it's getting later and closer to twilight when the animals start to get really active, I'm wondering if we should just say, yeah, we saw what we needed to see.
Let's go back.
Okay, we're headed back. I think it's a good time for us to think about dinner now too. All right, we're almost all the way back to the beginning. We weren't quite as adventurous, but it was our first time out here in the Northern Rockies, and I think it was a good start.
Yeah, I wouldn't call us trailblazers, but you know,
we're barely trail followers.
we got in there.
So now we have about another hour to drive. We're headed toward Muncho Lake. That's where we're gonna camp for the night, hopefully in one of their camp spots, but we don't have a reservation, so we gotta go and see if they got room for us. Wish us luck. Oh well. Okay, it is the end of our day 3 drive, and I got my notebook, so you know what that means. Yes, that is the freeway going right next to us again. But we are in a freaking gorgeous campsite. I mean, can you see behind us? That is Muncho Lake, and we're right on it.
It is like a mirror.
Oh, so beautiful. The sign says the campground's full, but we got so lucky because somebody decided to vacate their spot. So there was one place available, and we got it. So, let's tell you what happened getting up to this point that you haven't actually seen yet. Would you like to start by telling them how many miles we have driven in total since leaving Dawson Creek?
591 miles.
That sounds like we've gotten quite a long ways down the road. But in fact, we had that little snafu today with a credit card that was left behind in Fort Nelson. So between doubling back to pick that up and then redoing that stretch again, we're actually only 437.6 miles from mile 0. So yeah, we added about almost 160 miles today that most people don't do doing this drive. But in doing that, we got to see a lot of extra wildlife because that stretch from Fort Nelson to where we camped last night was probably the most abundant wildlife stretch we've had so far since we started, don't you think?
That was a pretty epic stretch.
Our stops today were the Tetsa River Lodge for cinnamon buns.
Oh, yeah.
Back to Fort Nelson, stopped at the Sani-dumps, Stone Mountain Provincial Park, and Baba Canyon. And now we are at the south end of Muncho Lake at Strawberry Flats Campground. This campsite is dry camping. It costs $20 cash. They have an attendant who comes around to collect, so make sure you're ready if you want to stay here. Bring that Canadian cash with you. And while we wait for them to come and collect our fare, we're going to go inside and make some dinner. We forgot the most important thing.
Wildlife.
How could we? Oh my gosh, I'm really hungry apparently.
It was an epic day.
It was. I don't know if it was quite as epic as yesterday, but we had some pretty exciting things, and we got them on camera. We're gonna show you a couple of clips with our audio that we usually just kind of play music or ambient sound over because it's totally worth it to hear us driving up and trying to figure out what we're seeing before we actually realize what it is. Yeah. We saw 4 black bears, a bunch of bison, because it was the same herd we saw yesterday. Yeah. And we saw them going both ways. So technically we've had 3 bison herd sightings now of anywhere from 7 to 9 bison, but they were all the same guys. A deer crossing the road. I'm not sure what it was, if it was a stone sheep or a mountain goat.
Where are you, buddy?
It's like a donkey.
Oh, it's a stone sheep.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh. Hi, buddy. Oh.
And then after our hike, on our way out of Stone Mountain, we saw the most exciting thing.
Our first porcupine!
ever.
We did not get that one on camera.
So
But
unexpected.
that was really freaking cool, this little thing waddling on the ground. And after that, we saw not one, not two, 3 moose. Ah!
It
This
was
has been so awesome.
incredible.
Okay, that is our wildlife wrap-up for the day. Now we're going to go have dinner. I forgot to mention when we did our stats that we also got some gas. We put in another $46.20 Canadian for 23.552 liters of gas. I'll put the conversions on the screen.
Tune in next week for part 2 of our drive to Alaska.